So, natural selection is this idea that change in organisms can occur over time because a trait arises in an individual organism. That trait may be adaptive. It may help the organism survive. It may help it blend in with its surroundings better so it won't get eaten. It perhaps helps this organism enough such that it can do better than its competitors. It can survive better than its competitors. If it can survive better than its competitors, perhaps it can leave more offspring behind than its competitors do within its species. So it leaves behind lots of offspring that also possess that trait. Now, a reasonable question would be, why do the children possess that trait? And that is simply because of genes. Okay, Darwin didn't have a handle on this in his lifetime because Gregor Mendel's work was not accepted in the scientific community yet, or even known about mostly in the scientific community yet at this time. But the traits that play a role in natural selection are inherited traits, traits that are passed from parent to offspring. Okay? These kinds of inherited traits, you already know, are determined by DNA, the actual physical molecule, the physical instructions, if you will, that are passed from parent to offspring. Over time, the population of organisms that exists will be increasingly different from the original population. If more and more and more of these offspring are left behind, and then they leave behind offspring that also has this more enhanced trait, they are all more fit for their environment than anything that doesn't have that trait, and so they survive better, leave more offspring, and over time the population starts to look different. And perhaps this population accumulates more differences, so many differences, that eventually, if you looked at it 2, 3, 4 million years in the future, you would see organisms that look very, very different from the organisms that we started with. Very different from the original. This is a great sample or diagram, I should say, of horse evolution, and this is spanning lots of millions of years, 55 million years of evolution. The horse started out as a small dog-sized animal living in the woods and forested areas, and over time came to look like this amazingly different looking animal that we call a modern horse, that is adapted for open grasslands, running fast, and so on. So natural selection is the process, the mechanism that sculpts species over time. Every characteristic we look at in an organism, every characteristic of an organism must be thought of in terms of natural selection. Specifically, the adaptive value of whatever characteristic you're looking at is to the organism that possesses it. Why would natural selection favor a particular characteristic? What is it about this characteristic that helps this organism to survive? From the hemoglobin in your blood, a chemical, what is it about this chemical that natural selection favored, such that hemoglobin is in our blood and the blood of many other mammals to help carry oxygen? What is it about that specific molecule that natural selection has liked and favored in terms of that? An entire body structure, like an arm, like these amazing things that have so many adaptive uses, to structures like these crazy wings, and even the arms, or legs, I should say, on this guy. This is a praying mantis type animal, but clearly has been adapted to look almost exactly like a leaf. It's amazing sculpting of that organism to be able to blend into its environment. Or even a behavior. When this video is done, it'll enter right into another clip of a really amazing behavior of animals that I will ask you to describe. Why would natural selection favor this behavior? Do behaviors have genetic components? Yes, they do. And why would certain behaviors be favored over others? Okay. Now, it is important to remember that not every single characteristic is perfectly adaptive. We will talk about some of those as well. Natural selection is not striving to create perfect organisms. Natural selection works with what is present, and those things that are better than other things get favored and moved on. But we are not perfect. Humans are subject to chronic back pain because we are adapted from animals that used to walk on four limbs, and we walk upright, and our backs are not perfectly adapted to that solution. So we will talk about that as well. Okay? Certainly, this example of a misshapen blood cell, sickle cell anemia, is an inherited trait. It is not adaptive, except for if you happen to live in a malaria-prone area, which we will talk about as well. So there's all kinds of caveats to this idea of natural selection at work, and we're going to explore lots of them. Okay, so evolution and natural selection, what is the difference between these two things? Evolution, natural selection. Evolution is the thing that has happened. The fossil record shows it to us. The kinds of life on the planet are not the same as they once were. That is what the evidence shows us in the fossil record. Natural selection is an explanation for how the kinds of species on Earth could actually have changed over time. How could that have happened? That's what natural selection is. Okay? So if you'll let the playlist play, you will see the very cool animal behavior that I think is just amazing. And then you'll be done with Evolution Lite. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next podcast.